Mike Scicluna, thank you so much for coming on the Infinite Banking Radio, man. Thanks for your time. What's going on today?
Not much, man. Just grinding and hustling and trying to get as much work done as I can in a day.
Man, I love it. Yeah, we were just speaking a second ago, just talking about, I mean, you got a ton of irons in the fire. It's pretty awesome. And so like I said in the beginning of this show is Mike is just a serial entrepreneur. He's a mastermind when it comes to starting businesses. He's got a software thing. He's an investor in a couple different startups. He's got some really cool things going. So Mike, can you kind of start us from the beginning about, the 30,000 feet? Who are you? How did you kind of get to where you are now? But I think most importantly, what a lot of people are looking to do is they've got this startup idea, they've got an idea in their head, and they're trying to figure out how to turn what is something in their brain into a tangible product or a business. So let's just kind of start on where you are now, how you got into what you're doing, and then we can kind of chop into more about how to start from A to B.
Yeah, of course. So I'm originally from Australia. I studied mechanical engineering in Australia, and when I actually got into the workforce, got into the corporate side of things, realized it wasn't really what I wanted to do. So figured if I was going to change careers, I was going to change countries. So I came here to the US. I studied, did an associate's in business management and finance here. And then I had a really good opportunity to work at a startup. I started out as an accountant. And then after a while, they said, "Hey, we need a CFO. Do you want to be that?" So I said, "Yeah, great. Take the opportunity." Learned a ton there, worked there for a few years. And then once I kind of hit my cap of what I could learn within that industry and within that company, I decided to look for a couple of other opportunities and had a great opportunity to go and work with Brady Slack at High Country Finance. I came in and built out the CFO advisory and accounting advisory side of the company. It's an outsourced tax and accounting firm. Became a business partner there, owned a portion of the company. And then about 2 years ago, with a couple of clients, we started a software company that's a commission automation and simplification tool. So it's really all about business optimization. So that's really where I've got to. I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur. I'm always looking for new opportunities. I've done lots of small things throughout my life. I had a DJ business for a bit. I owned a necktie company for a little bit there with a buddy of mine. And right now I'm into rental properties. I've got cars on Turo. I'm always looking for ways that I can make an extra buck and build my portfolio and build my wealth by being an entrepreneur.
Man, that's a cool thing because like you said, there's a lot of people that have this idea that, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, like I'm some guy that's starting businesses, but there's more to it than just like putting it in your Instagram profile that you're an entrepreneur, right? You're actually out there like on the front lines, actually putting words into action. So kind of take us from the beginning here. When you were, whether it was Turo, whether it's the rental property, maybe the software company, what does an individual need to do? Because like we said a minute ago, like everything starts out as an idea. Like what does the steps look like? Like how do you, because I've never started up something like what you've done. So I'm honestly curious, like what does it look like to get something that's just in your mind to on pen and paper, to raising the capital, to actually becoming a profitable business? What does that look like?
Yeah. So I'll give you what I would consider to be the three most important things about starting a business. So number one is you've just got to dive in. I can tell you this right off the bat that some of the most successful people that I've met in my career so far are also some of the dumbest people I've met. And I say that because they're dumb enough to just jump in. They don't think about the risk. They're not overanalyzing things. And that can actually work out to your advantage. You can actually be too smart to be successful. The second thing is never consider yourself to be good enough. If the second that you think you're good enough, that's when you start to slow down. That's when you stop improving and you think that you're better than everyone else. You don't take advice anymore. If you really want to be successful, you need to always consider that, you're the dumbest person in the room and that there's always something to learn. Read a ton of books, watch podcasts, listen to people that are smarter than you, not people that aren't where you want to be. I think that's really important. You got to pay attention to the people that are where you want to be. And the third thing is that you need to be in the right rooms. People say that, oh, well, I'm not successful because I didn't have the same opportunities as this person or that person. Well, yeah, you may not have been born into a super wealthy family, a super wealthy neighborhood or anything like that, but you can find those people and put yourselves into those positions. I think that people are waiting for those opportunities to just fall in their lap, you can go out and look for them, especially in this day and age with social media and all this online opportunity to meet people. It's a lot easier nowadays to find the right circles to be in. And once you're in the right room, you'll see those opportunities crop up.
So,
So
I
that's
mean,
my
that's a,
starting
yeah,
point.
I love it. I think that's great. I mean, it kind of all circles around pulling the trigger to hear the gun go off. It's like get in the right room with the
Yeah.
right people that are taking action and then go for it. I mean, so take us back to the software company. I'm curious, without getting into the weeds of like, numbers and things. I'm genuinely curious. I mean, what does that kind of like look like? What does it, you and some buddies just drinking some bourbon one night and being like, man, we should do this. This would be so sick. And then you wake up hungover and like not do anything? Or is it like, hey, we really are dumb enough to actually go for something? Like what does like getting, these tires turning and then like actually do something with the idea that you have?
Yeah, so there are a couple of ways to start a business. Number one is to take an already viable business model and either replicate or improve on that. So an accounting firm is a great example. There's a billion accounting firms out there. If you can see that other people are successful in accounting, you can say, well, I could do that or I could do that better, right? That's how a lot of businesses start. The other is to see a gap in the market, to see that there's a need that no one else is filling or that no one else is filling very well. So that's kind of where we started with this software that we're building. So it's called Stacked Commissions. Now, I was in the right room with the right people. So in my accounting firm, we had lots of companies that would ask us to do CFO services, and quite often they would say, "Hey, look, we got a whole commission team. Our commissions are just a mess. It's all in these spreadsheets. People are complaining that they're wrong all the time. Like, can you guys just handle it?" And I was like, "Yeah, no worries. I can do commissions, not a problem." The more I dove into it, the more I realized that yes, there are tools out there that you can use to do commissions, but as an accounting firm, I didn't see any of them as a viable option. I was like, well, it's going to cost us more than it's worth. So after doing that for a little while and talking to some of our customers about what they wanted and how it needed to function, we realized that there was a gap in the market. Not that there were no commission tools out there, but that there was a need essentially for something to be better than what was currently out there. So as far as pulling the trigger, this is where it can get a little more difficult to actually take that step, because every company is going to be different in how you're going to start it out. With my accounting firm, you just start. You don't really need a ton of capital to invest. With a software company, there's a lot of money that needs to be put into that to actually start building it. Whether you have one of the founders come in and they're going to spend all their time or a good chunk of their time after hours building this, or you're going to hire someone externally to build out the software. There's a lot of capital that needs to come in. The whole world of fundraising is a whole different ball game. So I would recommend, if you're going to start a company, don't start with fundraising. That's a much harder route. Find a company that you can just dive in, get your feet wet, and understand how running a business actually works before you go and try something that is going to take a lot of upfront capital. Even something like a business that's going to require you to put up a lot of money for inventory or something like that, or purchase or even rent an actual physical location. Those things can actually require a lot more from you. I actually think the idea of side hustles is a great thing, because I think people learn a lot with side hustles. How I started out with a lot of my ventures. But a side hustle is very different to a fully functioning business. Once you've got employees, once you've got actual marketing channels, once you've got large customers that are a little bit more need more touch points, a little bit more TLC, it's a different methodology, but a good starting point is a good side hustle.
I'm curious how when you're, forget the raising the capital side for a second. Like my biggest question is, when you're beginning this business, if it's just you and a couple of buddies out of the gate, and then you guys begin to maybe hire a few employees, hypothetically, what does that sales pitch sound like? Because you're talking about somebody maybe becoming like quitting a job that they're doing to go full time for some startup that's got like 2 or 3 guys in it. Like, what does that kind of dialogue sound like? And who is a good fit for, a startup like this? I mean, does it require a certain style of like personality, or is it like, hey, just an accountant banging some keys on a keyboard? Like, how do you guys go and figure out who would be a good fit for your business? And then that person that you're, engaging with, how do they, interpret the fact that, hey, I'm about to go work for this startup with a bunch of guys and I don't have a secured salary, or I don't know. What does that sound like? What is that dialogue like?
Yeah, I wish I could remember the guy's name, but there was a sailor like 300 years ago who wanted to take a trip to the Antarctic and or something like that, or the Arctic, and he posted an ad that he put around England, and he just basically, his ad said, "Looking for sailors, perilous journey, chances of survival very low. You'll not have much pay." Like it was basically, it was like the worst possible ad you could think of, right? It was terrible. But he had people sign up, and they were the kind of people that looked for that kind of adventure. And I think that's
Oh,
actually
wow.
really important with a startup.
Wow.
I want to make sure that when I'm advertising, people aren't looking for a nice cushy 9 to 5, great benefits corporate job. I want to tell people exactly what we're going to be doing. You're going to have projects that are going to require you to wear like a lot of hats at the same time. You're going to change projects rapidly. You're going to be putting out fires constantly. It's just a whole different ball game, and you need to find the right type of person for that. What I found is that most people that are willing to work in that kind of arena are people that are either entrepreneurs themselves and maybe not yet ready to take the leap, or they're people that just like to have a lot of autonomy. Uh, but I actually hate the whole hiring process. It's so draining, but it's something that you got to do, and I'm actually very involved with it when I actually do hire, because I think it's so important to hire the right people. You can lose a lot of money and a lot of time by hiring the wrong people, especially if you hire them wrong because you didn't expressly tell them what they were getting into.
100%. And maybe you're like me, you've read the book Good to Great by Jim Collins. He talks about
Yeah,
get the wrong people off the bus, get the right people on the bus, get them in the right seats, and then start driving the bus. Because if you're trying to do everything all at
yeah,
once, it just like ruins morale. You get a little bit of deal fatigue where you're just like, okay, it's exhausting. I'm not just spinning my tires, like not going anywhere with it. That's been my experience in the real estate business and things like that. So, well, tell me
yeah.
kind of more about a couple other things that you got going on. I mean, you guys, you've got your software thing, you've got some real estate, you've got some Turo. How did you, because like you said, you've got these side hustles. How do you manage all that? How do you get into these each individual business? Then how do you like become a puppeteer and a quarterback of all these businesses?
Yeah, I so first of all, I think it's important to understand that I read a crap ton of books. I don't think that I can overstate the importance of continually learning. So real estate, for example, I've probably read about 40 or 50 different books just on real estate. The first one I ever read was Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he
Nice.
dived into it just a little bit. But then you've got Brandon Turner. He's got the book on rental real estate and the book on no or low money down. There's so much that you can read and learn about that. And what I found is that you don't need to be an expert, but you need to know enough to be dangerous. And real estate's a really good one to start with. I mean, right now, real estate's a very different market to when I got into it, but there are still people that are just getting into real estate now that are absolutely crushing it. I think that as long as you're willing to put in the effort to actually learn and to understand how to, get yourself into that market, it's very possible. And I think reading books is the cheapest, fastest, and easiest way to learn how to start getting into things. So that's the first thing. The second is, the more that you know, the more you'll actually start to see those opportunities pop up in front of you.
Right.
So
That's right.
as much as I have opportunities right now that are working well for me, I've also looked into other opportunities and tried other things that haven't worked out. And I never let any of those opportunities burn me out, or because it didn't work out, it's like, oh well, I should just go back to my 9 to 5 lifestyle and not worry about it. You're going to have a few wins, and you'll probably have a few losses, uh, and everyone's going to be different. Some people are going to win straight off the bat and never have a loss, and good for them. But I actually think that the people that have the losses are better off, because they're the ones that are going to learn how to recognize and avoid those losses in the future. So again, spend your time learning and understanding. Books are a great way of doing that. I actually listen to audiobooks more than I
Nice.
actually read physical books. You might be surprised to know that you actually retain more of what you listen to than what you read. That
Interesting.
shocked me when I found that out. But if you go and Google it, it's like you retain 5% of what you read and 10% of what you listen to, which is wild to me.
Hmm.
But if you can just listen to audiobooks, do it on your commute. If you already have enough motivation at the gym and you don't need some amp up music, listen to it while you're at the gym. Listen to it when you're doing the boring, monotonous work at your day job, whatever it may be. But just start listening to things, and as you listen to those books, you'll start to see the opportunities around you that you wouldn't have otherwise seen. I'd say that that's probably one of the most important things for me personally, and how I've been able to get into these different ventures and different things that I've been working on. But you've also got to have the desire to work hard. If you want to clock out at 5 and not have to think about work, that's great. That's amazing for you. It's not the life that I want to live.
Yeah.
But but don't kid yourself into thinking that you want to be an entrepreneur if you're not willing to put in the hard days. Like, people don't realize that as an entrepreneur, like, it's not all rainbows and shiny skies and everything like that. Like, you might see someone that's got a $30 million business, and they look like they're just living the dream. They're always on vacation and it doesn't look like they work very hard. What people don't realize is that, yeah, they may be there now, but there was a time where they were working 14, 16, 18-hour days. And I can tell you, I've done that. And I still do it every now and then. Sometimes the business, it just requires it. If you're not willing or even able to do that kind of work, then you're kidding yourself if you're thinking you want to be an entrepreneur. Take the paycheck, let someone else do the hard yakka. You've got to figure out where you sit in that pool.
Well, a couple thoughts on that. The first is like what you mentioned before, where you've got, if you're listening, you're reading books, and you discover more opportunities that you otherwise would not have. I think it's important to kind of split test that, right? Like every time you have an opportunity, okay, I'm gonna do this one. I'm gonna do this one. Which one was successful? Okay, this one succeeded. This one failed. Let's do more of the one that's succeeding. Kind of do the split testing, because
Yeah.
every time that I'm really specifically in like industrial real estate now. Before I was doing houses, I was doing subject twos, I was flipping property, I was buying apartments, I was kind of doing all this. I had like 6 or 7 tricks for a pony, and I wasn't good at any of them. I just like was just kind of going around trying to figure it out. But now that I've focused specifically on one asset, I've found way more opportunities because I'm looking for a very specific thing. And I've also discovered being able to say no to something else is opening more doors on just kind of like the things that I'm wanting to be really good at. And then just talking about like, the piece that you're describing, like when entrepreneurs or people that are, putting stuff online that, hey, I'm making $45 million a year in a business, we're grossing it. First of all, that's not net, number one. But number two, a lot of that stuff, in my opinion, is like you just said, it's not realistic. It's not real. Like, yeah, there's people that fly on private planes and hang out by the beach for a week, but that's not the true day to day of what you and I are doing. It's you're actually like you're doing accounting in QuickBooks. You're hiring somebody new. You're speaking with a potential client. Like that style of things, just you can't like outsource that, especially if you want to be successful in the business. So I mean, I think it's funny when you see, not you, but when a person sees like all this kind of glamour and these unicorns and these show ponies, it's just like anybody thinking that that's the lifestyle of an entrepreneur, you're looking for the wrong thing. You need to go play the lottery. Like you got a way better chance of like winning the lottery than actually living that lifestyle as like an entrepreneur. That's been my experience. I mean, or at least my feelings towards that style of like, the show of what it looks like online. I don't know. That's my opinion, at least. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would 100% agree with you. And I'd say that working at an accounting firm and doing outsourced accounting for a lot of people that are entrepreneurs, uh, it we have a unique opportunity to look up the skirts of people that are parading around saying that they're,
Sure.
they try to make their lives look a lot more glamorous than they actually are in a lot of cases. We had an experience last year where we had a client that just wasn't paying their bills, and it had been like about 10 months non-payment. We'd been reaching out to them, and every time we did, they were really sorry, like things are really tight, and we could see their numbers. We knew things were tight. And then this one month they're posting on Facebook, or Instagram or something. They're like, yeah, we just crushed it this month, made like 6 million in sales, and just like going off. And we're looking at it going, you're trying to tell people that you're crushing it, but we know you're not crushing it. You're struggling. You're really struggling. I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize is, we talked about earlier the idea of, well, the starting point of having an idea. And yes, you need to have a good idea to start a business, but the idea is such a small part of it. And I think that everyone has a good idea. If I went and asked random people on the street, I could find 20 people in 20 minutes that could tell me great business ideas. What they usually lack is the ability to market and sell that idea, to build the operations to actually make that idea into a reality, and to manage the people and the operations of a company that go around not just constructing the product or the service, but actually to manage all the other parts that are supplementing, like the accounting of that product. So just having an idea is such a small part of what actually makes a business. It's being able to then execute on that and turn everything else into a reality. There's so much other skills that need to be incorporated there. And I'll say this, if you do want to start a company, I would recommend you find a business partner. Like not a side hustle. Side hustle you do on your own. But when you're at the point that you want to start a company, you want to find a business partner. At least one, if not two, and no more than two. Just try and start with the golden trio. That's what you want to look for. When you find those business partners, one of you needs to be marketing and sales, not just in charge of it, but good at it. If you can find one person that's really good at marketing and sales, one of you needs to be in charge of operations. So the day-to-day, the actual execution of the product, the making sure that the product is exactly according to the vision. And then one of you needs to be in charge of the back end of what's happening. So the accounting, the boring stuff, basically. I would say the boring stuff because that's not my role. But that's where people love working on that kind of stuff. So building the structure of the company itself and maintaining the structure of the company. If you can have 3 people together that are all skilled in and love the thing that they're doing, that's where you're going to have the highest chance of success in a company.
So as we start to wrap up here, I mean, it sounds like there's just a lot of great nuggets about, the philosophical, not philosophical, but like just like the high level way of thinking about starting a business. So if somebody has an idea, like if you were to, pitch them on, hey, here's the elevator way to start from scratch, you'd say, okay, look, go find a couple business partners that are just as passionate about you. Focus on maybe funding the deal last, maybe. Or what are like the kind of the steps just from idea, deal, getting the golden trio, finding the capital raise on that, setting up some type of legal organization and documents, and then going at it from there. I mean, what does that kind of look like as we kind of wrap to the end here?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you this as short as I possibly can, because I do.
I'm sure it's like 5 hours long of a seminar,
yeah.
But
So, okay, let's set the stage here. You've got your $1 billion idea, and you want to make this happen. This is the perfect idea. You're really passionate about it. You want to make it happen. First thing you do is find people that you're going to partner with that are going to help you make this $1 billion idea a reality. Those people need to have different skills to you. They're not just your buddy from high school. They have different skills to you. So that's the first thing. Find those business partners. Second thing, you're going to actually set up a corporation, an LLC. So just start with an LLC. And that LLC is going to and work with either a lawyer or an accountant to get this set up. But get that LLC set up. The percentage of ownership that is given to each of the owners should be vested. Now, this is really, really important. Nice. Talk to your lawyer about making sure the ownership is vested. So I'm not just going to give you ownership. We start the company and then 2 months later, you're like, nah, I don't want to do this. But now you still own, a quarter of the company or 30% of the company or something like that. Make sure that ownership is vested based on the time period and also work put into the company. Now that you've got the company set up, now you need to work on getting something to be able to show to a potential investor. So investors don't just want to see an idea, they want to see that you've actually put some effort in. Ideally, the word that they're looking for is traction. So that means that not only have you started building a product, but you've also started to show that there is some way of customers being interested in your product. You don't necessarily have to have paying customers, but even if you have a list of customers that potential customers that have signed up to a list saying that they would like to have your product as soon as it's actually live, like Kickstart. Kickstart is a great way of doing that because you do actually get customers that are putting money down saying that if you actually make this product, we will pay you.
Wow.
So once you have that, then you can start thinking about whether or not you need to raise money. Now, raising money is a very, very time consuming and difficult thing to do. I would actually advise the majority of business owners not to raise money because it does take away from your ability to work on the company itself, and you are giving up equity. However, if you are at a point that you need to raise money, then I would recommend going and reading some books about how to raise money. Fundraising is probably the best book I've read about that. So if you want a book to read as homework from this, the book Fundraising, it's a short book, great book on how to actually go about going and getting money.
Who wrote that?
Into your company. Geez, that's a great question. Let me quickly pull up my
I can find
Audible
it. Yeah,
so I can
fundraising.
tell you.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really good book. That will get you started on your journey.
I'll
Yeah,
just put
so
those in the show notes and everything. I just want to. I like to read it myself.
yeah, great book. And if you have any other questions or if you want any other recommendations on books, depending on what industry you're going in, there's a lot of good books out there, and I can definitely recommend some to you. But really, what it comes down to, if you're willing to put the work in, like really, really put the work in, and you've got just a reasonable amount of skill, and you're not too scared to take risks, then I can tell you you'll be successful. That's really what you need. And that's all it takes.
It's like a hint of, we've got a little mentorship for commercial real estate. And what I've discovered for the people that are in our group, sometimes out of the gate, it feels crazy daunting to realize, okay, I want to go buy a $2.5 million apartment building or industrial property or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Especially if they don't own any real estate. Same way someone hadn't started a business yet. It feels incredibly overwhelming, and the grade on this hill is like incredibly steep. But if people can have this, they can see the steps, and we got an acquisition blueprint where it's like, hey, every single step on the rung in the ladder that's going to get you from start to finish. And people can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel and be like, okay, the only way I'm going to eat this elephant is one bite at a time. And I'm going to take next step after next step. What that also does, it creates a system, number one, but number two, it creates like almost instant gratification. Like even if you're just like putting together a financing folder for a banker, or in your case, putting something together on a piece of paper, it's instantaneous confidence that like, hey, we're actually moving something forward here. I'm not just thinking about it anymore. I'm not laying in bed, losing sleep over it. I'm actually moving something forward. And that style of confidence over time can begin to compound and actually get the wheels moving versus just spinning in the mud. I guess that's the best way I can kind of correlate with that,
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that's a great way of looking at it.
So, well, let's do this, Mike. Well, I really appreciate your time, and I know again it's you're just rocking and rolling from all the stuff that we spoke about before. But kind of as we kind of get out of here, any kind of final thoughts on and somebody's just wanting to start out, other than what you said on just the steps that they can take. What's kind of some motivating recommendations that you can give somebody as they kind of get rolling and as they're going into the new year and trying to make some things happen.
Yeah. If you're willing to work hard and you're willing to fail, then you should just get started. You're going to make it. And I do not regret any of the crappy situations that I've gone through or the hard work that I've had to do, because it's put me where I'm at today. And I would, as much as I wouldn't want to have to go through it again, if I could go back, I wouldn't do anything differently. The lessons that I've learned have been invaluable. So just start it. Remember, some of the most successful people I know are also some of the dumbest people I know. and you might need to be a little more dumb than what you're currently being right now. If you're overthinking it, then stop overthinking and just start to dive in.
I love it. If you're willing to fail, you will succeed. That kind of
Exactly.
thing.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, again, Mike Scicluna, appreciate your time today, man. This has been great. Thanks so much for everything. And I guess we'll be seeing you on the next one, man. Thanks so much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. See you, Mike.
Bye.